Good morning, everybody. This is the news that we are waking up to for Monday, February 24th, 2025, day 1047 of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and day 44 of the subversion of the U.S. federal system by malign foreign powers in the election of the person of Donald Trump. Now, last night, we saw another big drone attack after a record-breaking drone attack on Saturday night. So Saturday night, we saw 267 drones shot at the territory of Ukraine with this incredible 96% interception rate. And then last night, we saw 185 come in, 113 shot down, 71 taken out with electronic countermeasures. That's 184 out of 185, a 99.9% interception rate. The good work of the mobile defense units, the signal corps, the many elements of the Ukrainian armed forces that come together to defend this nation every night against this onslaught is miraculous. It's amazing. And they deserve all our thanks and credit in the world. Now, they do this, right? We see this on Monday night, Sunday night going into Monday night every week because they want us tired for the week. They want everybody up all night on Sunday so that Monday is a drag and everybody's worn down, right? But these are really big strikes. These are two of the largest drone strikes ever in the history of the war and on consecutive evenings. A buddy of mine in the Ukrainian armed forces said to me the other day that he believes that this will stop when it gets warm because the goal, of course, is to freeze us in our beds. It's to terrorize us. And so once the weather warms up, we may see these numbers decrease. We'll see. Now, today is a big day, of course. It's the third anniversary of the full-scale invasion, and on a personal note, it is the second anniversary, which I can't even believe, of my arrival here in Kyiv. And when I think about how little I knew when I arrived here, I would almost certainly never have come. When I think about the way that the last 2 years has unfolded for me, it feels very natural, and the time for me has gone. So I'm very grateful to everybody here for demonstrating to me just how ignorant of the world I have been and how little I know and how much there is to learn. Today, for example, something happened that 2 years ago I would not have been able to make sense of. About a dozen EU leaders, right, from countries like Finland, Sweden, Belgium, and others, arrived along with major EU representatives. Ursula von der Leyen, president of the EU Commission, and Antonio Costa, the president of the European Council. So along with a dozen or more European leaders and major leadership of the EU, Russia launches MiG-31s. These are the jets that carry the hypersonic missiles. And all of Ukraine goes under an air alert. 2 years ago, this would have baffled me. Now it makes perfect sense. Putin wants to signal to the West that he is in charge, that he can murder everybody anytime he wants. Don't you forget it. We could send Oreshnik to Kyiv today, kill all you. This is the person we are dealing with. There is nothing in anything that Putin has said or done that should indicate to any rational human being that he is somehow interested in peace in Ukraine. This is nonsense. Now, for their part, the EU is really coming through, right? It looks like Trump, with his rhetoric, has sidelined the U.S., right? Like, why would anybody accept the irrational terms of surrender that he wants to impose on Ukraine, along with this insane neo-colonial economic coercion of the rare earths deal. So the EU came through with flying colors today with about 14 billion in aid, blowing away the estimates of 6 to 10 billion on this first tranche. And it is just the first tranche of an estimated $700 billion commitment to Ukraine, much of that simply funded with frozen Russian assets. So take a look here. The EU will provide 3.5 billion in aid to Ukraine in March, for March. Spain, $1 billion in military aid for the year. UK commits 4.5 billion in military assistance. Norway to allocate 3.5 billion for Ukraine this year. Canada, 25 LAV-3 armored vehicles, 4 F-16 simulators so that they can train pilots in Ukraine. Ammunition, and 5 billion from frozen Russian assets. That's the first time we've seen that. The Canadians have about 5 billion in frozen Russian assets, and it looks like they are opening the dam to the dispersal of these funds to Ukraine. Though that does remain to be seen. That's a tricky business right there. Sweden will deliver air defense systems, including Robot 70 and Trident Mk2, worth about 113 million. Denmark has a new aid package, and so does Finland, which together amounts to about oh, shoot. I apologize. There's a banner here. There we go. Sorry. That amounts to about $300 million in aid. Thank you. Now, what else? In Germany, Friedrich Merz appears to be the new chancellor of Germany. And Merz, in his campaign, said that he would deliver Taurus missiles to Ukraine. It is our fondest hope that he does so. Now, the big news, of course, in this was that despite the support of Donald Trump, despite the support of J.D. Vance, and despite the support of Vladimir Putin, which is quite a group of men to all be in support of you, the AfD only took 20% of the seats. Now, that's still 150 representatives in a Congress, a parliament of about 630 representatives, of actual basic Nazis inside of Germany. Very upsetting. As far as the CDU, it's important to remember that they are a right-leaning group. Now, Merz is saying he is not going to form a coalition with the AfD. And there's a lot of Russian propaganda already coming out today saying that that's his only choice, is to form a coalition with the AfD. He's saying that he's not going to do it. We'll see if his 28.5% is enough to put together a coalition with the SPD's 16.5% of the vote and sideline the AfD. Now, really interesting, if we look at who's voting for the far right in Germany, of course, it's the East Germans, where so many people for so many years made their living off of Moscow, still have close ties to Moscow, and are still pro-Moscow, pro-Putin. And you can see it, it's literally black and blue right there. Although in the heart of Bavaria there, the CDU did win some territory, you'll note. So we're hopeful that while this may take Germany in a more conservative direction, we hope that the traditional concerns about Moscow and concerns over Putin will override that conservatism and see them support Ukraine. Now, yesterday, of course, there were rallies in support of Ukraine all over the world, in a double dozen cities in the United States or more even, in Ukraine as well. This one You can hear the air raid sirens in the background, and you can see the folks with their eyes covered, like the world closes its eyes to the evil of the Kremlin and the suffering of the Ukrainian people. For the Ukrainian people, for any Ukrainians that do listen to this channel, there are lots of us who are with you. Lots of us. Now, Zelensky gave this amazing interview yesterday, and there are a couple of key takeaways from it. On the subject of Donald Trump calling him a dictator, he didn't take it seriously, he says. And I don't think there's anything less dictatorial than sacrificing your own position of power to trade it away for security guarantees for your country. Because that's exactly what he said he was willing to do. I have no intention of clinging to power for decades. I'm ready to resign if it means peace in Ukraine, and I could also trade my position for NATO membership. Right? I'm out. Right? Russia doesn't want to deal with me. Trump doesn't want to deal with me. I'm an impediment to peace. Fine. Secure my country's future, and I'm out of here, boys. It's very reasonable, very rational, and very much in the tradition of somebody like George Washington, who walked away from the presidency of the United States rather than let the fools around him call him king. On the subject of security guarantees, Zelensky said, "It seems to me that this is the essence of the expression peace through strength. We are partners," he said, referring to Trump. "I very much want him to be on our side so that it isn't just mediation, because that to me is not enough." So despite the name calling, despite the bullshit Russian disinformation rhetoric coming from the so-called leader of the free world, Zelensky understands the power that Trump holds and can wield, and is demonstrating the high level of politesse that is required to navigate the troubled waters that are ahead of us. He did go on to say that he handed Trump a document listing all the ceasefire agreements that Russia had violated and the dates of those violations. Russia wipes its ass with every treaty it signs. It's pointless. It's pointless thinking that we can deal with Moscow without defeating Putin and the Russian army. Absolutely pointless. In regard to the dictator comment, he said specifically, "I certainly wouldn't call those words from President Trump a compliment, to put it mildly. I understand that. But why get offended? The one who is a dictator gets offended by the word dictator." And I identify very strongly with that. I honestly said that we would prefer the United States to speak with us first on the subject of unilateral conversations between Russia and the U.S., and the attempts by the U.S. and Russia apparently to dictate a Ukrainian surrender. He says, "But that is the choice of the United States. They have their own approach. However, deciding on Ukraine without us is impossible." Impossible. As well it should be. We do not recognize any agreements made in that format. As well you shouldn't. So Zelensky is in it for the long haul and is absolutely willing to walk away from the presidency in exchange for what has already been promised: security for Ukraine. Now, the Ukrainians, for their part, are not slouching on this third-year anniversary. This is video from the Ryazan oil refinery. Now, we've heard that word before. Ryazan is one of the largest oil refineries in Russia. It processes about 16 million tons of crude oil a year, or about 5% of everything that gets refined inside of Russia. including 7% of all the diesel fuel. Now, so that makes it a critical target, and it has been hit twice in the last month. This is the third strike against it because it's still operational, right? I believe that it's lately been at half capacity, but it looks as though the Ukrainians are trying to take it to zero capacity. In addition to Ryazan being hit, in the Tula region, an oil depot was hit. Now, according to Russian official sources, all drones were shot down. There was no, maybe some debris fell on the territory of the oil depot. Maybe that happened. Maybe that's why at least one of the tanks appears to be sending flames 100 meters into the sky. Tula. Okay, that's it for me. It's 2 years. 2 years since I've been here, 18 months since I've been doing this. And I hope, and I couldn't do it without the 100 of you that support the Patreon. And so again, I want to express my deep appreciation for you all. And I hope that I can continue to deliver this information and that it continues to be valuable to you, as you demonstrate by putting your money where your mouth is. I have 100 people that support me, literally, and another 160 who tune in here as free members. And all the help and support and feedback that I get from all of you is also very gratifying. I deeply appreciate it. So on this 2-year anniversary, I just want to thank everybody that's been along for this ride as we keep trying to communicate the importance of the continued defense of Ukraine. I can't tell you how important I think this is and what I think a loss here would mean, not for Ukraine, but for the world. Okay, I'll see everybody tonight in the live. Thanks.